So yesterday there was an attack in my hometown of Toronto by a man driving a rental van along the sidewalk in Toronto's North End. And in doing so, he killed 10 people and injured 15 people. Now, so far, we only know the name of one of the victims, and that's Anne-Marie D'Amico. So in a statement to CBC News, the D'Amico family described her as having a generous heart and always did big things for people. She wouldn't stop until she went the extra mile for others. She genuinely wanted to care for all those around her, even if it meant sacrificing a portion of herself in return for others' happiness. She only had kindness in her. Her name has been broadcast around the world, attached to this terrible tragedy, but we want everyone to know that she embodied the definition of altruism. It comforts us knowing that the world has a chance to know her, and we hope that in this time, people fight with the same altruism rather than anger and hatred. We ask that at this time you respect our family's privacy as we come to terms with this tragic news. D'Amico's colleague at Invesco, John Tam, said she was full of life, loved to travel, and loved to help volunteer. Now, oftentimes after a tragic event like this, we lose sight of the victims that lost their lives. So I think it's important to highlight those people and celebrate their life. Now, I'm going to show you a video of the suspect being arrested shortly after the attack and what this video shows us, and maybe go a little more into who the suspect was or is and what may have led him to commit this sort of act. So first, here are a couple of videos showing the man's arrest right after the attack. So just incredible video there. Now, the officer in that situation was Constable Ken Lamb. So Constable Ken Lamb was able to de-escalate the situation in a way that appears to be rare nowadays. Here's the suspect pulling a gun on the officer multiple times, acting like he's going to shoot him. And for whatever reason, the officer is able to remain calm in that situation, even though it appears he's about to be shot. But he de-escalates it. He turns the siren off in the car, which allows the officer to then talk with the suspect, and then approaches him and arrests him calmly. It's unbelievable. Now, it's hard to know if this same thing, if this would have resulted in the same way had it happened in America. So it's not clear if the suspect there was holding a real gun that was loaded, because I imagine if this guy wanted to get suicide by cop, which is what it appeared he wanted to do, that he would have shot the gun somewhere, shoot it in the air or shoot it on the ground. But he wasn't doing any of that. So I'm not sure if he had a real gun or not. But regardless, the fact that this constable appeared to be alone there and was able to approach the suspect and arrest him in that heightened situation is just amazing. Now, I guess we should talk about the suspect here. So his name was Alec Minassian, 25, from Richmond Hill, Ontario. And he's been charged with 10 counts of murder and 13 counts of attempted murder. And he's had no previous, or is not previously known to police, and has no known religious or political affiliations. So right after the attack, a lot of people came out and made their own judgments about what this was about. But it appears they were all wrong. And we're still learning more about the suspect and what may have motivated him, though I'm going to get a little into his history, and it may appear this is one of those situations where there really was no way around it. So first, this tweet from Catherine McDonald of Global News Ontario, or Global News Toronto. We've just obtained this Facebook post from the accused Alec Minassian. suspected in the Young and Finch mass casualty, posted this early afternoon. FYI, incel equals involuntarily celibate. Elliot Rodger killed 6 people at UCSB in 2014 before killing himself. So she's referring to this Facebook post by Alec Manassian that appears to have been posted before the attack, where he says, Private Recruit Manassian Infantry 00010, wishing to speak to Sergeant 4chan, please. C232-49161. The incel rebellion has already begun. We will overthrow all the Chads and Stacys. All hail the supreme gentleman, Elliot Rodger. So Facebook has confirmed that that post is real, but there still appears to be some debate online whether he actually wrote it himself, because it doesn't appear to look similar to other kinds of writing that Alec Manassian had put on Facebook. But for the most part, it does appear to be from him, and that he was an incel, so involuntarily celibate. So this is a movement of men that harbor anger towards women because they won't have sex with them. Now, this is... It's hard to know if this would have been the motivation for the killing, seeing as he just randomly mowed down people on a sidewalk. It seems kind of weird that that would be the motivation. I think really what this comes down to is that Alec Manassian was just not in his right mind. So I'm going to read this quote from Reuters. Shirin Chami said her former classmate was not violent. She said Manassian was part of a program at Thornley Secondary School in Toronto's northern suburbs for high school students with special needs, attending a mix of mainstream and separate classes. Chami remembers him walking the halls with his hands together and his head down and making meowing noises. Now, from everything I'm reading about reports from people that knew the attacker, they all seem to say the same thing, that this attacker appeared to be socially inept or mentally disturbed, but wasn't violent and was a harmless guy that just didn't know how to interact with people. Now, I'm going to tell you something about myself. I grew up with severe social anxiety disorder, and it can be isolating. So when you're in that sort of situation where you are literally afraid of people, afraid of meeting people, afraid of making friends, afraid of going outside, what that can do is isolate you into a situation where you are now more open to radical forms of ideology, because you see a way to identify with something. So because you lack identity, because you lack an ability to socially interact, if you're shut in and you're isolated and you feel like you don't know who you are, you're looking for some sort of identity. Ideas like this, like whether it's the incel movement or forms of radicalization, whether it's religion or political, it's definitely a breeding ground for that sort of behavior. Now, luckily, I was never violent. I never got into any sort of ideology like that. But I can absolutely understand trying to find identity in movements. Now, I was lucky enough to be a gamer, so that was my identity. My identity was found in video games. But for a lot of people, that's not where they find their identity. A lot of people find their identity in hateful movements. And that may have been what happened here. But again, we don't really know because we don't have enough information. So I just want to end on here. A couple images from, this is images from Kevin Meisner of 680 News. He posted these photos on Twitter of University of Toronto students who say they are friends with a young woman who died. And I want to end on this video from the memorial that's been set up at the site of the attack.
I hope people will come and support this. I hope people will show that Toronto is united, Toronto is strong, and Toronto can get over this. You know, this is horrible tragedy, but we're strong. We get through a lot, and you know, people in this riding, they came from a lot of different countries. They saw war, they saw famine. A lot of them had fled political persecution. We can get over this, but we have to act together as a community, you know, and get something done on this front.